Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 304. Your weekly little get-together, we talk about recent gaming news. As always, your host, Tim Brandon, joining me today again, finally is...
I'm David, and I'm back.
Yes, after a couple of weeks hiatus, David is back with us to get into some topics I know he's absolutely going to love. Speaking of, we do have Monkey Island coming back. That actually is good news. E3 is canceled this year, and probably for good in my opinion, and SNK is now essentially owned by the Saudi Arabian government. But first, I want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching here live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or later over at Twitch TV/GamePoints, feel free to join the conversation with any questions, comments, concerns, etc. you might have. Just try to keep them germane to the conversation, regardless of where you're commenting at, be YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, or here at Twitch, or on a Discord that we have, or any number of things. David,
yes.
How's the last 2 weeks of gaming been treating you? And I get the feeling it's still all just one game.
Yeah, I basically just play Elden Ring. I don't know why you played a different video game. Yeah,
that's what you've been for the past 2 weeks. Only Elden Ring.
Are there other video games?
There are, but this is actually starting to piss me off a little bit because I wrapped up Horizon because I wanted to get Forbidden West out of the way because I just love that franchise so much. And then I started on Elden Ring.
Mm-hmm.
And it's starting to piss me off, not because Elden Ring's a bad game, far from it. It's so massive, though. It's keeping me away from other things that I want to play. Like, Good.
There's so much shit to do in that game. And it's really funny because we're at the point now where a lot of people have already beaten it, and you've got speedrunners running through it and beating the game in like 20 minutes. I'm like, I've got a lot more than 20 minutes in this video game, and the problem is I don't think they designed this open world with the idea of you doing everything on a playthrough.
But that's how I play my Souls games, though, David.
But that's how I play my Souls
games.
game.
Yeah, same here.
I'm trying to kill every boss in the video game, and it turns out there's a lot. There's so much shit. If I had just played through like the quote-unquote main story, I would have been done a long time ago. But I'm the guy that's walking over every square inch of the map and like marking where I've been and where I haven't, so that I can make sure I didn't miss a cave somewhere. Like,
I'm 73.6 hours into the Steam corner of my Steam clock, and I'm convinced that I'm only maybe 40% of the way finished with it. Maybe half. I'm right before the capital for those playing at home, and I'm like level 100 and I think 8 or something. But this game is, like we were saying, FromSoft games, the Souls games specifically, aren't really designed to be played the way we're playing it because they're designed to do multiple playthroughs. It's like, okay, this time you can pick this path, and this time you can pick this path. But much like you, I'm like, no. I'm doing all the paths at once.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to come back to this game for at least another 4 years when I'm done with it.
Let's talk about the fact that... I don't think this is a spoiler. The game's old. You can respec in this video game. Like, you've been able to respec in all Souls games. But normally it's like find this special thing and you can do it the one time.
Yeah,
this game, it's the fucking... I feel like you could do it 12 times, 24 times.
There is a vendor that lets you respec.
It's so fucking easy to do, and it's not like, oh, I don't like my initial build, I'm going to tweak it and make it better. It's you know what, I'm going to start the game completely over, more or less, stats-wise, and equip all this other cool shit that I've found.
It does take an item to do it, an item that you can't buy, you can only find throughout the world. But
or you can find a lot of them.
I've got at least 10 on me right now.
Yep.
So it's far more fluid that way. It's so good. I'm hesitant to call it the best game of this year so far because I think, for me personally, there might be a few things that come out this year that might top it. But as far as like a pure entertaining game goes, like just from a video gaming quality, it is by far one of the best things I've experienced over the past few years.
Now we can go back to my initial thoughts like 5 weeks ago when you were still playing Horizon and I was playing this game, and you're like, well, this game, it can't be a 10 because it has issues. And I'm like, I don't think despite the issues, it is kind of still that good.
My issue with that was never the
Oh no, we had a whole conversation
specifically
on it.
the review side, because the reviewers, my stance on that. You have to review the game you're given, and that game at that state and time was nowhere near as polished as it is now. They've done a lot of behind the scenes work on it.
And even that game then was still this fun.
Yeah. It's so good. And I knew I was going to like it. And I kind of got, as a Souls player, that sounds pretentious as fuck to say, as a Souls player, but I looked at it and I kind of immediately became overwhelmed, because I'm used to Souls games going, okay, you have like 2 paths.
Yep, you can go here or here. This way seems hard, so I guess you're probably supposed to go this way unless you know exactly what you're doing, and then you go that other way.
So that first 3 hours of the game were kind of miserable for me.
Yeah, because you didn't have like a clear direction.
Yeah, but once
you followed what looks like the clear directions and immediately hit a power wall.
It wasn't that so much as I was just aimless. It was I did not have a clear direction as opposed to the power wall. But once I had to change my mentality about it. I stopped playing it like it was Dark Souls or Bloodborne, and I started playing it like it was Fallout.
Yeah.
And once that happened, everything fell into place. Anyways, enough about Elden Ring. I just want to get into it because it's been 2 or 3 weeks. I know that's the one game you've been playing. I started playing it. We haven't actually had a chance to talk about our experiences on this together. I think both you and I are roughly at the same point at this point. Like, I think you may be a few hours ahead of me.
Yeah, what's funny is you mentioned that you're up to like 70-something hours, and I don't think I'm that much further than you. I was when I started, but you consume content much more rapidly than I do, apparently. And that's saying something.
I'm also not essentially playing through the game 3 times like you are. Because you're playing with other people, you're helping other people.
I've been like helping a lot of people, and anytime someone wants to do something, I'll hop in and do a little co-op because it's fun. Jolly cooperation's in my blood. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, fuck them kids. I'm doing this solo. There are 2 things I'm walled at. I might, if I can't deal with them, have you come back and help me with, and they're bullshit things. One is like 3 crystal people, and I know the trick to beat them, but I just need to do something else for it. And the other person is someone in an ever jail.
Cool.
But I think I can level up more and come back.
Also, you cannot have help with those.
Oh, well, fuck.
Those are specifically solo boss fights.
Okay, I didn't know that. The Everjails?
Yes.
Okay.
I will advise you to, as the kids say, get good.
Get good. I'll just come back a little bit more leveled and deal with it then. Anyways.
Luckily, they're all completely optional, and they don't usually give you anything, crazy necessary. But
all right.
Anyways, it's still a boss.
That's the problem. It is still a boss. Enough of that. Let's go ahead and get onto the news. I just needed to get my Elden Ring rants off the chest because I haven't talked to you about it. Yeah, you haven't been here. David, first up on the news. This is kind of exciting, actually. This is via Game Informer. Return to Monkey Island announced with series creator Ron Gilbert involved. To the article. Monkey Island's long hiatus is finally coming to an end, and its creators returning along with the series. In a collaboration with Devolver Digital and Lucasfilm Games, Terrible Toy Box is returning to Monkey Island, a pirating adventure starring Guybrush Threepwood. I actually forgot how to pronounce his name for a second. I'm used to just reading it. Industry legend and Monkey Island Maniac creator Ron Gilbert runs Terrible Toy Box and will be involved in this new franchise entity. Return to Monkey Island will act as a direct sequel to Monkey Island 2, The Chuck's Revenge, picking up where the 1991 point-and-click adventure left off. Series' floundering hero, Guybrush, will be once again voiced by his original actor, Dominic Amato.
That's rad.
That's amazing, by the way. I love that. It's like 30 years on, and they brought him back to do it again. That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Monkey Island has previously had a string of revivals over the years, with the Telltale taking a crack at the series Tales of Monkey Island in 2009, and a special edition remasters of The Secret of Monkey Island and Monkey Island 2 announced around the same time. David.
Yes.
If you don't know, Monkey Island is a legendary adventure game from the golden age of Lucasfilm.
I know I have not played it, but Monkey Island is famous enough that I am aware of it.
Yeah, it is.
It's like Monkey Island and Full Throttle are the adventure games that even if you weren't alive then, you've probably heard of.
Yeah, this is back when LucasArts was at its pinnacle of its game, and these were some of the best things they've ever did. This was an amazing studio at the top of its game, and these are some of the best games they produced of that golden age, to give you an idea of how beloved this stuff is. The fact that Ron Gilbert's come back to do this, the fact that they went out of their way to bring back the original voice actor 30 years later, the fact that Devolver Digital is involved, everything about this seems to be lining up in such a way that I think we're going to have something good here.
Something a little magical.
For sure. I am super excited for this, by the way. I was never an adventure game guy. I liked them in premise, but I could never tolerate the hunt a pixel thing, because a lot of adventure games were notorious for this shit, where it's just like,
oh yeah,
you have to click around until you find the one interactable thing, and that one interactable thing,
it's usually completely arbitrary.
Yeah, my go-to example would be you need to get the stick to put a piece of gum on the end, to get the string to tie down to the stick, to be able to get down to reach the key that lets you unlock the box to get another key, kind of bullshit. And that's what a lot of adventure games were. Monkey Island had a little bit of that, but its comedy was more than enough to make up for that. And I'm hoping that Terrible Toy Box here can create something with a more, I'm loath to say modern sensibility, because it makes me sound like I'm trying to say it needs to change its gameplay, and it doesn't. But let's cut out some of that bullshit.
Yeah.
And let's find things that work.
Make it more, how about fun? Can we add fun to the video game?
Fun's a good word for it. A lot of that adventure game stuff you could beat usually in 20 minutes if you know of a direct path. So they put things in there that were designed to kind of pad it out and make you go, fuck, what do I do next? And they were designed to stump you in a unnatural way, as opposed to a natural flow, which is like, okay, how can I do this?
Yeah, logic puzzles are one thing. Like your weird example of the stick plus the gum plus the string to get the key to do the other thing is, that's a little weird.
I mean, I know it's weird, but I use that example specifically because it's from a game whose name I can't remember right now, but that was specifically what you had to do.
Yeah, that's
so they had weird shit like that. So I am looking forward to Monkey Island. This is really exciting, and hopefully it does lead to a renaissance of these style of games, because I would love to see a Full Throttle 2.
Oh yeah.
Or shit, even a Maniac Mansion reboot.
Well, we're not going to know for quite a while. But there's something we do know, Steven. And while I am normally the guy on the show that likes to get a little schadenfreudy, as it were, I think this one might hit you in the funny bone. Via IGN, E3 2022, both digital and physical, has officially been canceled.
Get fucked, ESA.
After previously canceling its in-person E3 2022 event, the ESA has now informed its partners that there will be no digital event equivalent this year either, meaning that E3 2022 is fully canceled. The news broke via a tweet from Razer PR lead Will Powers, who'd said that an email had been sent announcing the cancellation of a digital E3 event. IGN has independently verified the contents of the email as well. The ESA had initially planned for an in-person E3 event this year after having no event in 2020 due to COVID-19 and a digital one in 2021. However, this was canceled in January, with the ESA at the time unable to make a public statement on whether or not there would be a digital equivalent. According to sources speaking to IGN at the time, discussions around E3 have been fraught throughout the year, with third parties normally involved finding the ESA's ongoing silence regarding their plans frustrating. Basically, no one knew what the hell was going on. This thing's been just sitting and sitting and sitting, and no one was saying anything.
The ESA is a dumpster fire and has been for the past few years. Let's not forget they literally doxed their entire journalist list.
Yeah. Sources connected to the event tell IGN that discussions about a possible digital equivalent have been ongoing ever since, but without strong momentum to drive them. Instead, the ESA seems to be making plans to regroup for a larger comeback in 2023. In a statement from the ESA, quote, "We will devote all our energy and resources to delivering a revitalized physical and digital E3 experience next summer. Whether enjoyed from the show floor or your favorite devices, the 2023 showcase will bring the community, media, and industry back together in an all-new format and interactive experience. We look forward to presenting E3 to fans around the world live from Los Angeles in 2023. We'll see."
What are your thoughts on this, David?
It's a little shocking. I kind of figured they were still going to try and force an E3 out somehow. But maybe they're just ceding the floor to the Keighley show.
By the way, Keighley is throwing a little bit of shade at the ESA's way. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that they did not have a nice separation from each other. Keighley seems to be very antagonistic toward the ESA now, and I don't blame him.
He's probably stoked. He's like, check it out. This thing I've been wanting to do is now the summer game thing to do. I almost said festival, but that's what the fucking thing's called. But it literally is, right? There's no other big, like, industry-wide gaming convention that happens in the summer.
No.
Without E3. So
yeah, PAX is fall and early spring, depending on where you're at. So
TGS isn't near it. GDC's not near it. It's you know.
This is one of those things that I see the ESA and E3 specifically, kind of like a Blockbuster or a Hollywood Video. I am going to think about it in a positive light when it is gone. But that doesn't change the fact that when it was around, there was a lot of bullshit problems with it.
And that in this day and age, it's not as needed as it was.
No, it absolutely isn't. And that's problem number one, is that they just kept charging more and more money with lower and lower payout.
Yep.
To the point where, like, the indie scene was like, God.
Every video game is not announced at E3 anymore. And it's a long time since it's been that way. It used to be everything was dropped in July. That's when you heard about everything. But now you've got Rex, you've got the State of Plays, you got the whatever the Xbox thing's called, plus you've got, you know, the Ubisoft thing and the EA show, and everybody just wants to feed their content directly into your face as soon as they have a plan for it and they can completely control the message.
Exactly. Why spend a couple $100,000 on a show floor presence whose demos are only going to be played by people who flew out to one city? When you can
have been known to have issues. How many show floor demos did you see that had like crazy bugs or even on-stage performances where, you know, the character doesn't move or something ridiculous?
Live shows are hard to pull off and very time-consuming and money-consuming. Why do that when you can create a slickly presented 20-minute video and have it edited to your satisfaction and just dump it out so everyone can see? You get way more eyes on it. It looks far more professional, and it's going to do way bigger numbers than anything you could do at E3 for a fraction of the cost.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally get why this would be a thing. Why this would happen.
All that being said, with their call-outs to the new format and the changes for next year, I actually could see E3 coming back next year, but not as the show that we're aware of. Not the one that we've had for the last, 20 years or whatever.
They're
but
still going to be in that convention
different.
center, though. That convention center is massive. Do you remember the photos from, was it last year's E3 when it was maybe a 10th full and it just looked pathetic? I don't know what the ESA can do short of paying people to show up themselves to save E3. I think the show is dead. And rest in peace. I will always remember E3 fondly for what it was, not what it became.
Well, we will have to wait and see next year.
I want all of your opinions, by the way, on this one too. Let me know what you think about E3 going away. Did you like having everything just in one massive week, or do you like how things seem to be trending toward these tight 20 to 30 minute videos of trailer after trailer after trailer? I'd be very curious to know what the general public's opinion is, because I know what my stance on is. I know what your stance on is, but we have a little bit of a
I'm also of an era that, when I was getting game news and liked E3, it was the same time I was still buying video game magazines.
Yeah, you had to wait a month after stuff was announced or decided before you figured something
to read anything out about it, and not, I know who just left this company to join this other company to start on this video game, and here's an early release of the concept art that I can look at right this second.
Now we know game announcements like a week before they even happen.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a different time. David, let's do a hard shift to the next topic here. This is it's more of a tech thing than anything else, but I think it's an important step for
it's also exciting.
Sure. Via Twinfinite, Unreal Engine 5.0 has been officially released.
Woo!
On Monday, Epic Games hosted its State of Unreal live stream, focusing on the latest news about Unreal Engine 5. And while the engine was available in early access before, it launched Monday in its version 5.0 for all developers. Epic Games also announced a project named Lyra, which is a test game running on PCs and consoles like we use as a base for other games. Lyra comes with 2 game modes: Expanse, which is team deathmatch, and Convulsion, which is essentially control the zones mode. So like a capture the flag kind of situation.
Headquarters, something.
Lastly, they also announced that the next Tomb Raider game is in development and will be powered by the engine. David, Unreal 5, looking
You remember
like
that?
you can do
You
all
remember
kinds
that
of really
tech
cool
demo?
shit. Oh, yeah, I very
That's
much remember that tech demo.
that shit was awesome. So I'm very excited for what games look like in, let's say 2 years.
Did you get a chance to play around with that Matrix experience?
Yes, 100%.
They did some cool shit in that.
Yes, absolutely.
And those are tools that are essentially available to from everyone to the biggest developers like Sony, Microsoft, Square, Ubisoft, etc.
To jackasses like you and me.
All the way down to you and me. And the fact that everyone can work on that same suite of options and produce, given enough time, admittedly, some just
we're not
really
saying
good
it's
stuff.
Easy. If you and I download this, we're not going to produce anything in quality. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm trying to be very careful with what I'm saying. I don't want to say like any jackass can make something amazing with it, but if you have enough time, you can definitely do it. Stuffy Twitchy in chat says finally something to give the new consoles to compute. I don't know how resource intensive Unreal 5 engine is. I'm not a tech guy. I have like a basic understanding of a lot of stuff, but I don't when it comes down to like hard numbers, I don't know.
I find that more as a shot that the next gen looks an awful lot like last gen, but with better load times.
That is very, very true. So far, I haven't seen a single game on next generation that couldn't have ran on PlayStation 4 or Xbox.
Yeah, that doesn't make you go, yeah, there hasn't been that, wow, this is fucking next gen, this looks amazing game yet.
It's all been about convenience and speed.
Remember the first time you saw water on the PS2? Man, game changing.
This is going to be one of the dumbest fucking things that I could make this example out of. But I remember when the Xbox 360 first came out. And one of its launch games was Call of Duty.
Yes.
And when you load up Call of Duty, you see that spitting Activision logo for the first time actually rendered as opposed to a QuickTime movie they would insert in front of there. It blew my fucking mind away.
Oh, yeah.
I know that sounds dumb, that the fucking Activision logo is what made me go, wow, this is next gen.
That's how revolutionary things were at that point, right?
The difference between, like
in the fucking Stone Ages still.
I shouldn't say QuickTime, it's Bink Video. Everything ran on Bink Video. From a Bink Video player to an actual rendered spinning Activision logo, I was like, holy shit, this looks amazing. And that was on the fucking intro, but we don't have that now. We don't have that same sense of wonder anymore. So, Unreal Engine 5, out in the wild. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the indie scene can do with this. Like I said, I gave it about 2 years before we see seeing some amazing indie games from it. Really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's AAA people already working on something. Like they said, Tomb Raider is in development. They've probably been working on it here for a little bit. This has been in beta for a little while, so the big studios have probably already been playing with it.
Big studios, I'm sure, have had this for about a year at this point, I think.
So we'll see some AAA stuff maybe by the end of the year, but probably next year. But the good stuff, the stuff that I'm looking forward to, I think about 2 years.
Sounds good. Speaking of things running on Unreal 5 there, David.
Oh, yeah. How about, well, that's a way to talk about it. In a story from Video Games Chronicle, Days Gone director Jeff Frost has joined the Tomb Raider studio Crystal Dynamics. It's Unreal 5 related. Ross announced his new role on Tuesday in a tweet promoting nearly 50 job vacancies at the Square Enix studio. Game director Ross and writer director John Garvin, the two most senior creatives behind Days Gone, announced their departure from Sony's Bend studio in December of 2020. Both men had been with the Oregon, US-based studio, previously known as Eidetic, from its origin days in the mid-90s, having written and designed PS1 action game Siphon Filter and its sequels.
Let me pause real quick. How did you feel about Siphon Filter?
Siphon Filter was fine.
I thought the first one was all right, but then it really the other Siphon Filter games whose names I can't remember. I know one of them was Gabe Shop. I think that was on the PSP. The first one was good, but the rest of mine was like, I didn't think that was too good. But that first one was great.
Siphon Filter, Splinter Cell. I played Metal Gear Solid, so let's just be real.
Fair enough.
Like third-person action protagonist game where you shoot stuff. I was just playing Metal Gear Solid. I didn't play anything else. It was claimed the pair left Bend following internal conflict about the studio's future direction after Sony rejected a pitch for Days Gone 2. It was announced last September that Xbox had signed Crystal Dynamics to co-develop Perfect Dark, which is the debut title from its new in-house studio, The Initiative. Now, this may sound a little confusing. Why are we talking about The Initiative in this Crystal Dynamics story? But if you missed it, that game looks like it's in trouble because they've handed a lot of development of it to Crystal Dynamics, who came in to help create a video game with the world's first quadruple A studio.
I don't remember if this was one of the shows you weren't here for or not, but there was a story about how the initiative, that quadruple A studio, needed to start relying on outside help to finish the Perfect Dark reboot that was announced years ago at this point. And
that's what I was literally just alluding to.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, I'm just recapping, we've talked about this before, and it feels like every time we hear about that game, Crystal Dynamics has taken more and more of it over.
Yeah, for sure. Like, the fact that it's mentioned in this article talking about someone joining Crystal Dynamics makes me think that maybe it's not being made by the initiative as much as they wanted it to be.
Yeah, that quadruple A studio really making its money back.
Yep.
I feel really bad for Jeff Ross and John Garvin, because I think Days Gone was actually an amazing game. And what I think fucked that game was Sony's marketing / PR side of things. Because they gave a buggy, fucked up mess of a game to reviewers for a review build that was completely patched out before it even launched. And remember, that's not on the fault of the reviewers, by the way. I've always said you have to review the game that you're given. That is on the fault of Sony PR, though, for not going, hey, you'll get this game like a couple days later when it has the day one patch on there or something like that. But if you play Days Gone now, it's not memorable, but it is good, and it has some really great moments to it. And it's one of the more entertaining environments in an open world game I've played around in. Yeah, it's all Pacific Northwest. It's nothing but trees for certain. But what they created a believable area to drive around in. And I really would have loved to have seen a Days Gone 2. And it sucks that these two were, according to rumors, essentially told to, from what I have heard, they were kind of told either leave or we'll make you leave.
Yeah, we talked about that.
That's a rumor. I can't confirm or deny that. That's just what the scuttlebutt that I've heard about it. But I think that Ross and Garvin really got the raw end of the stick here, and I'm glad to see them working with a studio that I've always liked as well. Crystal Dynamics has some good things. Those Tomb Raider games are great. Yes, chat's asking, does this mean the next Tomb Raider game has Laura fighting zombies? I think of the new rebooted Tomb Raider trilogy, I think she did fight some zombies in it. Not your traditional undead zombies, but there were definitely some supernatural elements involved in there. So sure, you can have her fighting zombies that would fit to the new rebooted trilogy just as well. The question I have about that upcoming Tomb Raider game, by the way, is it going to be a continuation of the Rise, Shadow, Tomb Raider series, or is it going to be yet another reboot?
Yeah, I would hope that it's just the next in that series.
Yeah, I don't need to have things rebooted over and over again. I'm kind of
because this shit was just rebooted.
Yeah, not all that.
It was rebooted 9 years ago. You can wait longer.
Also, something to keep in mind too. While they do mention Tomb Raider and they do mention Perfect Dark in this article, Ross could be assigned to work on something else entirely different.
Yep, that's true.
He's just signed on to the studio. They could be working on a third game, because Crystal Dynamics does support for a lot of games out there. They produce their own stuff, but they really are a support studio.
Well, there you go.
In other Unreal 5 engine news, this one's via Video Game Chronicle as well. New Sony studio Firesprite is making a AAA horror game in the Unreal Engine 5. Sony's recently acquired Firesprite Studios working on a AAA horror game, it's been revealed. As spotted by Reset Era User, a job listing of the UK-based studio's website states that a horror game is in development and will run on Unreal Engine 5. It's not clear whether the title is based on an existing horror game property such as Siren, or whether it is a new IP. As an aside, David, I have heard rumors that this is actually an existing Sony IP. I don't know which one it is, but that's just what I have heard.
Why would you pull Siren? I'm sorry.
I liked the first Siren. I thought it was a unique idea, but yeah, that is kind of an odd game to play.
Of the ones to pick, I'm just sorry. Not to shit on that game, but to kind of shit on that game.
It's just that if you think of Sony horror IPs, that's the only one that I can think off the top of my head.
I guess that's fair.
Or it could be
But if that's the best Sony horror IP you can think of, then I'm not really hopeful for any rebooted Sony horror
The person
IPs.
who was telling me a little bit about what they might be working on, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. And plus, they kind of have like a 50-50 track record anyways about what is and isn't. Because they hear their stuff like in the pre-production phase.
Yeah, so it could be shut down, or it could go forward, or it's not even real.
But I have heard that it is a Sony existing IP. But we'll see how that shifts. Or if it's even true. Anyways, back to the article. Firesprite is already co-developing a PlayStation 2 VR 2 spin-off of the Horizon series called Horizon Call of the Mountain in collaboration with Guerrilla Games. Also, as reported in January, VGC understands that Firesprite has taken over its development of Lucid Games' unannounced Twisted Metal reboot and poached its game director, Matt Southern, the director of various MotorStorm games, plus the original pitcher for Drive Club. He has left his role as director of Lucid in January to take on the same role at Firesprite. Firesprite's
that's a nice way to move.
Firesprite's job listings also include numerous roles for what's simply being referred to as a multiplayer action game, but the fact that one of these roles is a senior designer vehicle handling suggests that this could be the new Twisted Metal game. David, this is one of those things where I didn't put this in here so much because they're making a new horror game that's unannounced. I put this in here because I am concerned that Firesprite is being spread thin. Yeah, because there were three things I read right here.
Firesprite isn't that big of a studio.
I don't think they are. I'm not positive. I don't have a head count or anything off the top of my head.
They're not huge. I don't know if they're three simultaneous game developments big.
No.
So I feel like this horror game is probably in the what you were mentioning pre-production phase, where they've talked about it and they've got a green light, but they've got other shit to do, and we're probably not going to see it for a while.
Firesprite has 265 employees as of 2021.
I mean, that's not terrible, but it's not a huge place.
Right. So these all could be smaller games. Rare is the Ubisoft
or this could be they've got 200 people working on the Call of the Mountain game, and then they've got
like 2 people designing art assets for whatever this horror game is.
And then like the other 30 people are backburnering Twisted Metal.
Yeah. I am just really, really worried about that. By the way, I'm looking at the Firesprite Wikipedia page here. They're also helping to work on Star Citizen.
Oh, so they're not doing any work for that.
Yeah, that's yet another thing that they're working on.
Don't say that like that's actually taking up any of their time. Man, I just fucking probably doesn't even know he's paying those guys checks.
I just get really worried when I hear about one studio working on more than 2 projects at once.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, David. Speaking of things that really worry me.
Oh, man. This one hurts.
I gave this one to you for it.
I know. In a story from The Verge, SNK is now almost entirely owned by the Mohammed bin Salman Foundation. SNK Corporation, the developer of games like Metal Slug and Fatal Fury, is now nearly entirely owned by a subsidiary of the Saudi Crown Prince's Foundation, Electronic Gaming Development Company, or EGDC, which is owned by the Mohammed bin Salman Foundation, and it holds now 96.18% of SNK's shares, according to a February 15th filing on SNK's website. This follows a strategic investment announced in November of 2020, where the MISK Foundation acquired an initial 33% stake in SNK.
Which we reported on at the time, and I think we're one of the few podcasts to talk about it because so many people were reluctant to talk about this shit, and I get why.
Yeah, at the time, MISK Foundation indicated it planned to eventually take a 51% stake in SNK, but it seems they've decided to buy a much larger stake. Recently, Saudi Arabia has made some big investments in the gaming industry. Bloomberg reported in February that the Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund has taken stakes in more than 5% of both Capcom and Nexon, stakes that combined are worth more than $1 billion. The PIF also invested more than $3.3 billion to buy stock in gaming giants Activision Blizzard, EA, and Take-Two in the fourth quarter of 2020. Al Jazeera reported that in February of 2021. But the investments carry the weight of Saudi Arabia's recent history of human rights abuses. Most recently, a U.S. intelligence report concluded Mohammed bin Salman approved the plans to, quote, capture or kill journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who was murdered and, spoilers, dismembered after visiting a Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Ugh. I don't like reading that last sentence out loud.
Yeah, this is one of those things. I remember when we brought this up when they first bought the initial 3% stake into SNK, because we started thinking about the fact
it's
that
hard to get hype for SNK games when they're partially contributing to I don't know,
a murderer,
a bad dude. Yeah,
let's just call it what it is. A man who runs a country that does horrible things to women and minorities and anyone who does not fall within their extremely narrow purview of what their religion is.
Yeah.
That essentially functions off of slave labor.
Yeah.
Again,
I don't. It's rough, and I get why a lot of people didn't want to talk about this the first time. But you kind of need to think about it.
It's one of those things.
I guess you don't. You can do whatever you want. If you want to buy all the SNK games, you go for it.
I don't even know if I can fault SNK for it, because as we discussed last time, if you're a publicly traded company,
you can't really control
fight this shit off.
Yeah, unless you have someone who's in the company that owns more than 51%, like Tim Sweeney does for Epic, for example.
Yeah.
You're kind of limited to the fact that, people can kind of just buy companies. It's a thing. And if they've got all the money, they can buy you.
We saw this happen very recently when Elon Musk went, I just own 10% of Twitter now.
Yeah. Because people that are filthy rich can just buy things.
This is just one of those things where they have that Metal Slug Tactics game coming out, for example. And I'm still going to probably end up streaming that game, but if you don't think I'm not going to title all of my streams Metal Gear Slug Tactics, whatever the hell it's called, Saudi Arabia does this, whatever this new current thing is. I'm going to beat that.
Source a local quick headline before every stream. Just here's another human rights violation.
Yeah, that's gonna be how I push back against this shit. I'm not going to judge anyone, by the way, for buying an SNK game. I get it. Furthermore, you and I were way into the weeds on this shit. 95% of people who are going to buy the next KOF or the next Metal Slug or whatever SNK puts out aren't even going to know about Jamal Khashoggi, let alone that Saudi Arabia now owns that company for all intents and purposes. So it's hard for me to build up a righteous anger against consumers buying this because they just don't know. And a lot of media sources out there, especially in games media, aren't going to be talking about this because a lot of them, guess what, have Saudi Arabia as their fucking investors.
Yeah.
At least at some level, be it 3% or 5% or 10%. And it's the same reason why you don't get too many stories about how evil and how shadowy Tencent is. Because, like, for example, Fanbyte, another one of the more major websites out there, they're on lock, stock, and barrel by Tencent. So you have these media companies who can't even think about reporting on this stuff because the people who own them are the people who they would be reporting on. And it's just bad all over, and I don't like any of it. But it is what it is, and I'm not going to tell you not to buy it. I'm just saying be aware of where your money is going when you do things like this. Or like what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to get it. I'm probably going to enjoy the Metal Gear Tactics or Metal Slug Tactics game, but I'm going to highlight everywhere, hey, this is what it is. Much like when I get something from Tencent, which is going to be in the next story that we're talking about here. Not NetEase, rather, but kind of the same idea. When I'm going to play this upcoming Quantic Dream Star Wars game that we're going to talk about, if you don't think my streams are going to be Star Wars Eclipse, Taiwan is a country on its own, I'm absolutely going to do that. And that's
all you. I'm going to not do any of that. I don't even fucking BattleNet on my computer anymore.
No, and
I'm a little different than you. I'll just not buy that shit anymore, and then I guess I don't play those games.
Also an acceptable thing, but that's the point that I'm getting at. That's everyone kind of has to do what they feel about it.
Yep.
And I don't blame people for not knowing this is happening or just kind of shrugging their shoulders and go, well, what can you do? Because if you want to be a 100% moralistic gamer these days, it's just not going to happen, because in this world, everything gets combined some way, shape, or form. Because if you want to start going down that rabbit hole, then we could talk about how Apple products are made by people slaving away in Chinese buildings that have like suicide nets around them, or your jeans were probably made from some sweatshop out in India. We can really go down that rabbit hole, but that's just
we're not really the podcast for that.
No,
actually,
that's just going to be kind of pointless.
That's a whole other thing.
Anyways, before I go down too far that way,
I don't have an iPhone. Is that my only fucking reply to this fucking conversation? Whatever, dude. All right, yeah.
Before I go down,
I don't love it.
Before I go way down too far down that, I do want to go ahead and talk about this next article, which I've already alluded to a couple times here from Exputer. Sources say that NetEase will be acquiring 100% of Quantic Dream. Keep in mind that this has not been confirmed yet and that this is all rumor, but I am seeing multiple places starting to report this as if it was a done deal, which usually means it probably is. To the article. NetEase, the Chinese internet technology company, will reportedly acquire 100% of Quantic Dream, with an announcement likely to come this summer, sources suggest. By the way, NetEase, they're kind of like Tencent. They're essentially the same style of company. It's another tech company.
I know who NetEase is.
Back to the article. The company purchased a minority stake with Quantic Dream in 2019 to support their vision of becoming a global multi-franchise entertainment company and to develop advanced technologies and games for the future, end quote. It was reported in a press release. But now it seems like NetEase will be acquiring 100% of the company. The deal has been in talks for months, but it is unclear whether or not it's been 100% finalized. It is unclear as to why acquisition talks began, but sources suggested that Quantic Dream is looking to be fully acquired since its 3-game Sony deal expired the following release of Detroit Become Human in 2018. NetEase is no stranger to acquiring studios, with the company acquiring Grasshopper Manufacturing late last year. Grasshopper, who made franchises like Killer 7, No More Heroes, and Light Pop Chainsaw, decided to, quote, get together in the long term through deeper cooperation to create more good content for gamers, end quote. Those familiar with the deal said the current NetEase Quantic Dream deal seems to be similar to that of Grasshopper, with NetEase providing the resource support studio needs to bring Star Wars Eclipse to life. I fully believe this is going to happen. Quantic Dream is in trouble when it comes to staffing right now. There have been multiple reports that studio is extremely shorthanded because
it's because their boss is a huge fucking asshole.
Also, as you and I have talked about, right now it is kind of a game developers market at the moment where people are getting paid well above what they're making currently to go to other places because there is a need for talented developers to work on these massive video game projects. So people are paying obscene rates to hire top talent.
There's ridiculous amounts of money being pumped into the industry right now. Well, part of this is, everyone's buying everyone, right? So you've got this ridiculous amount of consolidation, which means the companies at the very tippy top are making all the fucking money, and they're willing to spend that. The fact that most of the acquisitions also come with shit tons of people getting fired, that's a whole other story.
There's a lot of dick waving going on right now. And when that starts happening, people start throwing money around everywhere, like you were saying.
Yep.
So I can get why Quantic Dream has problems hiring people, which in turn would force them to go to something like NetEase to help them outsource at least some of the development, to eat up some of the development costs, especially with a giant franchise like Star Wars.
At this point, you just have to make your decision. Who are you going to sell your company to? Is it going to be Microsoft? Is it going to be Sony? Is it going to be one of the Chinese companies?
Or is it going to be Nordic?
Or is it going to be THQ Nordic? Are you going to Embracer Group? Those are your options.
Speaking of which, by the way, of all those 5 companies, actually, no, fuck Tencent and NetEase, fuck that. But if Nordic wants to buy this podcast, I will shill for Red Faction Gorilla 2 any day of the week. All you have to do is write me a check, and it doesn't have to be all that much.
Right? I'll do the shilling usually for free. Just give us permission to put THQ Nordic Presents at the front.
It'll be like that scene in Wayne's World when Noah's Arcade buys out Wayne's World and the set gets super high fancy and it has the Wayne's World brought to you by, and it just slows down. It'll be like that.
Pepsi, taste for a new generation.
David, speaking of acquisitions, why don't you go ahead and lead off on this story here?
Speaking of acquisitions, in a story from Video Games Chronicle, fuck, I can't. Jim fucking Ryan confirms Sony has more studio acquisitions planned. That's not his real name, but fuck.
No, it is his real name. Born James F. Ryan. He was... Go on.
PlayStation boss Jim, disconnected from Games Media, Ryan, has confirmed that Sony has more acquisitions planned beyond its recent buyouts of Bungie and Haven.
God, he
Sony
is such a dweeb. I
fucking
always
hate that
think
guy.
of that fucking photo of him just holding that controller in the most awkward way possible, as well as that interview when he's like, "What games do you play?" Whenever he's asked that question, it's always...
whatever released most recently.
Yeah,
whatever our new thing is.
Oh, God.
Old games are dumb. I'm Jim Ryan. How much does the banana cost? $10. Sony announced the acquisition of Montreal, Canada-based Haven last month, which takes PlayStation's internal studios to more than 18 developers. The move follows the company's recent acquisitions of Destiny creator Bungie, Demon Souls studio Blue Point Games, that would be the remake of Demon Souls, not the original, that's a whole lot of people, Returnal developer Housemarque, PC port specialist Nix Software, and Firesprite, a UK-based developer who we were literally just talking about. And speaking on the latest PlayStation podcast, SIE president Ryan confirmed that the platform holder is working with further deals to buy developers. In a quote from the doofus himself, "We're in a really good place with PlayStation Studios and have been for the past few years. The critical success and the commercial success of the games that they've been making, that has given us permission to invest heavily in content creation. We're growing our studios organically and we're growing through acquisition. We've acquired 5 studios during the course of 2021. We're in discussions with Bungie and we have more planned. This is getting us into a virtuous cycle where success begets success." End quote, and PowerPoint, and series of buzzwords that Ryan Googled before going into this press release.
Hey there, Dry. Good to have you. A couple points I want to make. One, Jim Ryan really would be at home as a member of the Blue family, wouldn't he?
He's a boob.
2, this is the second time I've seen fucking Jim Ryan use the phrase virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
And I hammered the shit out of this last
It's probably
week.
in his copy of Sell to the Max magazine.
There is nothing... I don't think he understands what the word virtuous means. Because that's not something that you can apply to this. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
He got a word-a-day calendar, okay? All right? And that's one of the ones that he remembers.
It's like us saying we have a righteous podcast. Words have fucking meanings, and you don't get to just say it's a virtuous cycle of game development. Virtuous is not game development, man. Come the fuck on. Jesus Christ. Oh, God damn it, Ryan. One day he'll understand that there's money in Legend of Dragoon Stand. One day. But also he'll just burn it down, too.
Yeah, right?
God
one day.
Damn it. This is not one of those things where...
with a reference, but
What was that?
Jim Secretly a Blues Ryan is definitely going to be
it's one of our
trending?
things now.
Yeah, no, that's
there is rumors that we are going to hear what this new PlayStation acquisition is soon. A lot of podcasts, a lot of big podcasts last week delayed the recording to the end of the week because they thought it was going to drop last week. It didn't. But
good thing we didn't delay shit. I just wasn't here.
Fair enough. But I wouldn't be surprised if we hear of a Sony announcement in the next week to 3 weeks. That's my guess. But this is what was that?
I'm going to say it's going to happen anytime between now and the end of the year. I'm doing the $1 bet. It's a joke.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's coming.
I'm like literally reading the next story,
about it.
And I'm only half listening to you at that point. I was like, what is he talking about?
Fair. I will let you take it over. How about you do this sweet announcement?
All right, we got 2 more stories coming up. Both of them all related to some horrible shit going on, but interesting moves and pro gamer moves, I guess I could say. I wouldn't, but I could. First up here, Wargaming.net announces decision to leave Russia and Belarus. For those of you who don't know, by the way, Wargaming.net are the people who do the World of Tanks, World of Warships, etc. games. They're a very big company, and they have had development studios in both of those countries. Well, they're moving them the hell out. To the press release. Over the past weeks, Wargaming has been conducting a strategic review of business operations worldwide. The company has decided it will not own nor operate businesses in Russia and Belarus and will leave both countries. Effective March 31st, the company transferred its live games business to Russia and Belarus to local management of Lesta Studio that is no longer affiliated with Wargaming. The company will not profit from this process either today or going forward. Much to the contrary, we expect to suffer substantial losses as a direct result of this decision. We will be completing the operational transition with all due speed while remaining in full compliance with all laws and ensuring the ongoing safety and support of our employees. During the transition period, the live products will remain available in Russia and Belarus and will be operated by their new owner. Wargaming has also started the process of closing its studio in Minsk, Belarus. We will be providing as much severance support as possible to our employees affected by the change. David, this is one of those things where I hate the fact that we have to reference so many real-world tragic events that are going on, but these things have fucking consequences in the industry that we cover, and this is one of them.
Yeah. Also, as we mentioned, there's some things that happen in the industry that make me sad, and there's other things that make me think maybe I should install World of Tanks.
I do kind of want to give World of Tanks a shot. I've heard it's a great game.
I mean, without getting into things that will make me too tired to continue the show, there is definitely some shit going on, and I support this decision.
I could see you slowly getting like your narcolepsy bout as we're talking about this, as you just start getting more and more depressed.
It's almost too much. I've been reading way too much news about what's going on over there, and it is definitely not good for my mental health. And so I'm trying to stay positive because it's a video game show, but it's some shit.
We won't be getting too much then into what's actually happening in Ukraine, but we will say that the Russian and Belarus isolation from the rest of the world is still continuing. And this is, once again, the gaming industry still saying, okay, we're pulling out. And we do have one more story to address to this on here. And I think this one actually might cheer you up just because of how it's presented.
Yeah, it does have a little bit of a spin on it.
David?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to talk. Like I said, It drained me so quickly. Anyway, sorry. In a story from PC Gamer, developer fully supports Loop Hero Studio as it encourages piracy in sanctioned countries. Prospective buyers of Loop Hero, based in areas affected by economic sanctions, should pirate the game, Studio Four Quarters has announced. Due to sanctions imposed following Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24th, some customers in Russia may be unable to use regular payment methods to purchase games on Steam. The Russian independent studio, which does not support Russia's invasion of Ukraine, encouraged its followers to help raise the pirate flag in a March 27th post on its official VK account. It also shared a torrent link
that
for
right
their own
there
video game.
Is the part that I just love, is that they're like, hey, pirate this shit. Here's a link to it.
Yeah. Asked by a user how the studio can be supported during the ongoing crisis, the Four Quarters account wrote via Google Translate, "We can handle it. Thank you. If there's such an opportunity for you to provide support, take better care of your loved ones and friends." End quote. A spokesperson for Loop Hero publisher Devolver Digital has issued a statement confirming that it supports Four Quarters' invitation for users in areas affected by economic sanctions to pirate the game. Quote, Devolver Digital fully supports Four Quarters as they navigate this incredibly difficult period. We've been communicating consistently with the team to help them wherever possible, and we're alerted of the statement ahead of time, which we back 100%.
I just love that they put a goddamn torrent link in their own tweet there.
Yeah.
Like,
hey, everybody, pirate this.
By the way,
here's
Loop
our
Hero,
game.
An amazing game. It's one of those indie games that I played and I want like a sequel to it, and I want it right now. I want more Loop Hero content, and I hope that Four Quarters, if it's not Loop Hero 2, they give me something similar to that, because goddamn did I have a blast playing that.
Good times.
David, that kind of wraps things up for the news.
Indeed. We're newsed out. What are we going to do?
Couple big stories, couple of infuriating ones, but I like to think that this one is one of those ones that put a smile on my face when I read it. I'm sure it did to you as well. But that means now I'm reduced to just playing games that have come out. And
no. What are you going to do? Play more Elden Ring?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Normally I'd have a little bit better of a segue here, but honestly, I don't care what's coming out this week. It's just going to be me playing Elden Ring. So
exactly. You can't even pretend that you have to desperately play something tomorrow because you have something to play for the next probably 300 hours.
I guess that means I have to phrase it this way. When I am finished with Elden Ring sometime in July at the rate it's going,
what games are going to be on your Steam
my catalog that I could take a look at?
Oh boy. Well, there are some things. I guess there's one thing. Let's get into it. New releases this week. First up, we've got Before We Leave, releasing on the PlayStations, both 4 and 5. This is a casual city builder that has been out on Steam since 2021. That is pretty well reviewed. It's a city building game in a cozy corner of the universe. You're basically kind of building a little civilization, and then you can fly around to different planets and new lands and continue settling, and you got to watch out for space whales.
This is one of those games that I didn't know existed until today, and I kind of want to play it now.
Yeah. It looks like a nice casual city builder shenanigans, and those sometimes are really nice.
It just looks chill.
Yep.
Despite the and never mind. I was going to go down somewhere else with the
Despite the space whales.
Despite the space
also
whales.
out this week, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga hits everything. It's on everything. If you own it, it probably has Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. It collects all 9 Star Wars saga films in a brand new Lego video game, unlike any other. I am willing to bet
Lego Star Wars games.
It's probably much like all the others. Which, for the record, the Lego games have never been bad.
Yeah, it's not a bad
maybe
thing.
Maybe some of them have kind of a weak story. You know, that story where they kind of give you some text sometime, and the Legos look at each other dramatically. But they're all fun.
I haven't played a Lego game in years. I might pick this up just to have something to... I need a palate cleanser from Elden Ring.
I definitely will not.
It's too much at times, and it starts to kind of... I get like that sweaty palm thing, which I haven't experienced in games for a long time.
You need one of those old Mad Catz controllers that has the fans in it.
Oh, with the fans in there? The Cooler Master, what the hell they were called?
Yep, hell yeah.
Those suck, by the way.
How about next on the list, something that's still funny to me, MLB The Show 2022, releasing on not just the PlayStations, but also Xbox and Switch.
I want to boot this up on Switch or Xbox to see if I can see that Sony logo.
San Diego logo?
Yeah.
Yep. Published by Sony, made by San Diego Studio. MLB came in and said, hey, if you guys don't start selling this on every console, we're pulling the license. And Sony said, oh shit, okay. So, yeah, now you can buy MLB on all the things. If you have no idea what that is, it's a baseball game. It's based on this year, which means it's got player info from probably last year, because I think that's how sports games works.
Baseball.
I wouldn't know. The last one I played was NFL Blitz.
Also, like the arcade NFL Blitz?
Yeah.
Damn. It's a long time ago, man.
I don't play a lot of sports since. Z-Warp hits... Okay, this is weird. It's on the PlayStations. It's on the Xboxes. It's on the Switch. It's not, from what I can tell, anywhere on your home computer. Like, it's just not. It is a 2D, like, side-scrolling shoot-'em-up in a retro pixel art style, frantic arcade-inspired action that looks fucking awesome that I apparently can't buy on Steam. And I don't know what to do with myself. It's upsetting.
It is odd that
it feels weird.
This game is not on Steam or Epic,
yeah.
and I don't mean just on. It's just not on PC.
Yeah, it's not on. It's not on GOG. It's not on anything. It's strange to me. I can't remember the last time I saw something that wasn't just, I guess, like Switch store bait. If you know what I mean, like the stuff that looks like it's on fucking Apple Arcade or on Google Play or whatever.
I haven't seen anything that has been multi-platform for everything but PC in a very long time.
Yeah, it's weird. But that's okay. I don't have to worry about Z-Warp because I can instead just play Chrono Cross: The Radical Dreamers Edition, which does release on PC, among other things. It's Chrono Cross. Chrono Cross is the fucking spiritual successful slash sequel slash whatever the hell you want to call it to Chrono Trigger, one of the greatest fucking JRPGs of all time. And this one was the one on PlayStation that was also great. Some people say it wasn't as great, but guess what? It's still great, and it's got a really fucking good soundtrack. And if you never played Chrono Cross, you should probably play Chrono Cross because, fuck, dude. I really hope that this game comes with the soundtrack. I just do.
It is one of the best soundtracks ever in a video game.
Just look it up. Because you should know of it. If you've played a video game, you should know Chrono Cross. I'm so upset.
Yeah, it really I don't want to describe one of the best ones out there. It's real good. The game itself, I will fall into that category if I didn't think it was as good as Chrono Trigger. I will fully admit that.
It's hard because Chrono Trigger is really good.
Mm-hmm.
But, so here's the funny thing. I didn't play Chrono Trigger when it came out. I played Final Fantasy III. I never got a copy of Chrono Trigger until much later. The first time I played Chrono Trigger was the Final Fantasy Origins or Anthology or Collection or whatever it was, which I played after I played Chrono Cross.
I was in the fortunate position where we rented games a lot, the old Super Nintendo games. And the problem with that is when you have an RPG is you save and then you get that game back. And people fucking overwrite that shit.
Yeah, of course they do.
But the video store where we rented things, we were in good with the owners of it. So we would drop the game off and I was like, hey, could you just like not rent this out for a week until we come back? And they would be like, yeah, okay, no problem. And they would just sit on it. So I was able to play through Final Fantasy 2 and 3 and Chrono Trigger and all that stuff by going, hey, is that there? I didn't want people overriding my save. It's like, yeah, here you go.
That's a move.
So I lucked out. I did not necessarily have to experience that pain more than a few times. Now, in the case of Chrono Cross being on the PlayStation 1, they had memory cards and all that stuff by that day, so I didn't have to worry about it.
Yep. And I guess I should have talked about this earlier, but sometimes you don't save the best for last. You save Chinatown Detective Agency for last, which is a point-and-click adventure game releasing on the Xbox, Switch, and PC. It's a cyber noir point-and-click adventure, blending stunning retro design with innovative mechanics. You play as an ex-cop who just opened her own detective agency. Doesn't it sound different? Doesn't it sound innovative?
David, this actually
it still actually looks pretty cool. It's a detective game where you're picking clients, you're traveling around, you're solving mysteries, you're actually using kind of legit looking research to find clues and do all this other stuff in an adventure game. It actually is pretty neat, but it's a gritty noir drama, so I can't give it all the credit.
This does look cool. I'm interested in playing it, and the reason why I put it last on the list, David, is because I like our shows to have a certain bit of symmetry. We opened with an adventure game. We close with an adventure game.
Yeah, sure. That's why we did it. This is just the order you found it from on Google.
Not true, actually, but I'm not willing to get too much into it.
Close to true.
Kind of close to true, but not quite.
It's true adjacent.
Hey, that's all that really matters, right? David, this has been GamePoints episode 304, and thank you all for showing up. We do stream this live every Tuesday here at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at twitch.tv/GamePoints. Please feel free to drop on by and join the conversation like so many of you do. If you can't watch us live, however, drop by youtube.com/GamePointsPC. We also have Rumble, BitChute, and various other alternate media platforms you can take us a look on as well. You can join our Discord server, link provided down below if you want to be part of the greater GamePoints community. You can follow the show at GamePointsPC on Twitter. You can follow myself, Stephen Brown, at CapitalistPig21, and you can follow David there at Palstrife_Satori. Once again, thank you for showing up. This has been GamePoints, and until next time, we're out of here.